The next mainline Kirby game is going to release. In fact, wow, I'm smart. It's been almost 3 years since Kirby and the Forgotten Land released back in 2022, introducing a new era to the series and forging the seeming future of upcoming titles. After Star Allies left players with mixed feelings, Kirby's first proper 3D entry was exactly what we initially expected for his HD debut. No cut corners, heavy reliance on nostalgia or updates making the game complete. A full package delivering on expectations set due to the unusual long development time. Continuing from that point, the only two following titles are Dream Buffet and Return to Dreamland Deluxe, both emphasizing Kirby's anniversary back in the day and giving us the best year the franchise witnessed. Naturally, the melody started to whistle a quieter tone with no substantial release after Return to Dreamland Deluxe in February in 2023. Now, this doesn't mean work has not been done since early 2023, as it's quite apparent all of those titles were developed separately. The main team behind the Forgotten Land is probably handling the next mainline surprise just after finishing their game. Maybe even earlier, considering Nintendo likes to sit on finished titles in order to bring them out at the most perfect timing. No DLC or updates in any kind further prove how they must have shifted immediately to their next project, which might be in development for 2.5 years now. Consequently, it brings up the question, has hell forgotten about Kirby? Or more likely, when is the next mainline Kirby title going to release? At first, this puzzle may be fairly easy to answer going by patterns the series follows. Seeing how the Forgotten Land took almost exactly 4 years after Star Allies came out, it's safe to assume a 2026 release given the fact the creators should have a better understanding on the new type of gameplay now. While that might be the obvious solution everyone is expecting at this point, the explanation behind an early 2026 release isn't as one-sided as you think. Assuming the successor will be another 3D platformer, which should be a given regarding the huge financial success of the Forgotten Land, the usual development time of a mainline entry should take at least 3 years. Of course, they can force out something earlier and simply complete it later, but I like to assume the creators learned from Star Allies' controversial status among the community despite its proficient sales. There's no need to risk the positive wave the series is currently enjoying with the rushed cash grab no one asked for. If anything, it seems like everyone is absolutely fine with waiting as long as it takes to develop something akin to the quality of the Forgotten Land, bearing in mind we got 3 games in 1 year. A pause for a creative new initiative is much deserved, but all of this is plainly logical thinking. A huge factor why I don't believe the next mainline title to release in 2025 is Nintendo's advancing following console, which I'm going to refer to as Switch 2. Presuming the Switch 2 will come out in spring next year, a Kirby console launch adventure sounds thrilling on paper and I would certainly not complain, but a little complicated if you put this whole situation into a bigger picture. Remember when the last 3D Mario released? Ignoring Bowser's Fury as a side project, Odyssey is 8 years old at this point and there's no doubt Nintendo's going to introduce their next console with a long overdue successor. And if it's not a 3D Mario, there's also a high chance for a true new Mario Kart, sitting at 10 years with Mario Kart 8 being published in 2014 and held on live support since then. I don't need to mention another potential series, as I mean to imply the fact Nintendo wants to launch with a strong flagship title, selling millions of consoles and demonstrating the necessity of a second Switch. I'm not trying to entail Kirby could not have this effect on possible buyers, but ignoring my personal bias towards the series, he was never really a system seller in the traditional sense. This could have changed after the Forgotten Land expanded the series to a huge degree, but it's highly unlikely. Although 2024 is packed with surprisingly many first-party titles, there's not a single huge relevant one, and it's at this point a common idea that Nintendo prepares some big hits for the first year of the Switch 2. They did basically the very same with the original Switch, releasing in 2017 along a wide range of games, and filling the dry gap of early 2018 with Kirby Star Allies. Self-evidently, Star Allies wasn't ready to be published any earlier. It wasn't ready to be published in early 2018, but never mind. However, it only goes to show Kirby works amazingly as this filler, profiting from non-existing competition during those months. Some cynical voices even like to point out it was the very reason Star Allies sold so well in the first place, so no matter what you think about the respective title, spring, with a little breathing room after a console's release, seems to be the perfect schedule to bring out a Kirby game. However, there's only one way I can see a potential mainline entry release in 2025, and it has something to do with individualism. Normally, a new Kirby title is justified by a more or less innovative idea, often in the form of a primary gimmick. Return to Dreamland super abilities Triple Deluxe Hypernova or Forgotten Lands Mouthful Mode. Even though more than two-dimensional Kirby titles feel fairly similar in their gameplay, it's those gimmicks differentiating each entry from each other and at least try to give them a unique identity. Planet Robobot, as a contrast, only falls somewhat into this pattern, as using a mech suit to simply destroy your surrounding wouldn't quite catch customers to buy another Kirby title on the 3DS. On top of that, while Triple Deluxe could brag with its background as a unique feature, Planet Robobot is heavily based on Triple Deluxe level design, hence feeling even more related than any prior title. There had to be a serious shift in graphics or tone, and since it would have taken too much work creating a completely new visual style, the team opted for a distinct industrial setting as the sole identity of Planet Robobot. So although Planet Robobot and Triple Deluxe are basically the same gameplay wise, they feel utterly dissimilar thanks to a mere tonal shift, a straightforward but absolute effective approach. The same could happen to the next mainline entry, using an easily distinguishable scenery for its own identity. Imagine a Halloween themed adventure, ideally placed on an October release schedule to market the game fittingly to the season, or Mario Sunshine-like summer experience benefiting from an emptier summer window. This theory would also require the creators to be finished within 3 to 3.5 years, which is an accurate time frame for a mainline entry even in 3D, but maybe not as much to fully realize a proper follow-up. Planet Robobot released only 2 years after Triple Deluxe and is regularly considered to be the best representative in the entire series. Yet it suffers from smaller repercussions the development team could only slightly cover up. A longer development cycle does not equal a better end result, as many titles have proved in the past, but premising the creators have a good perception of 3D gameplay, ambitious ideas, and maybe play it not as safe as in the last 10 years. I think 4 years is an entirely fair development cycle for a new mainline title. The last chance for a 2025 release is during the holiday season. It makes sense for Nintendo to start with a system selling juggernaut at the beginning, but the holiday season is up to debate. Assuming the next 3D Mario is going to come out with a new console in spring, there wouldn't be another 3D platformer damaging the sale of a Kirby title, making it a perfect fit for late fall or early winter. The aforementioned new trust in Kirby to sell countless consoles after the Forgotten Lands' immense success is certainly a factor to keep in mind, and a holiday release would help to raise the franchise to new heights, but every point I mentioned before seems simply more logical and safe. It is the most probable scenario I can relate to a 2025 release, respecting Nintendo's approach of breaking patterns and playing with players' expectations, but I would not like to see Kirby compete with bigger titles, which enjoy a higher status thanks to their reputation. Something I haven't mentioned and we do need to consider is the closure of Van Pool, a fairly unknown but formerly independent video game developer who co-developed titles such as Kirby Fighters 2 or Return to Dreamland Deluxe. The exact reasons for their shutdown remain a mystery, but when the news came to light, it was a surprise to everyone, seeing how every title they helped creating was probably fairly successful. Van Pool is an essential part of Kirby since 2019, helping with a couple Kirby spin-offs, and we can only wonder what kind of impact their closure will have on the series. Speaking in greater terms, there isn't much to worry about if we only observe mainline titles, and to be honest, I don't see the spin-off games suffer in any kind. I would presume it's not that hard to find another studio simply helping out, but surely a shame due to Van Pool's knowledge they probably gathered throughout the years. One interesting detail that could stand in correlation to Van Pool's closure is HAL's relatively recent hiring process. At the beginning of this year, looking for all sorts of talented individuals such as 3D animators, effect artists, level designer and many more. We do not know if this process is a means to compensate for Van Pool's loss, seeing how the hiring takes place only half a year after their closure. But there's a high chance many of Van Pool's staff might have switched over to HAL immediately or after their official recruitment. Either way, I doubt absolutely no one at Van Pool transitioned over to HAL. And even if not, the current hiring is a sign the creators want to expand their team to maintain regular releases or use the additional manpower for bigger productions. For instance, to bring up a similar case, after the closure of Alpha Dreams, the creators behind the Mario & Luigi series, the future of the franchise was more than unclear. With now dedicated developers behind the IP, there's no warranty for upcoming games, as Nintendo has to either take up this role themselves or find another studio capable enough to carry on the legacy in a way that will satisfy fans. As it turns out, it took only a few years to relive the series with Brothership, and ironically enough was created by a bunch of former Alpha Dreams members. A closure is always a shame for everyone involved, but does not need to mean anything harmful for Kirby in this case, as it's impossible to know what is going on behind the scenes. Ultimately, that leaves us with the 2026 release. We don't know what kind of game the comparatively recent hiring applies to, but if it's for the next mainline entry and they were still looking for stuff this year, I strongly doubt we will see a successor in 2025. A trailer or occasional spin-off may be feasible, but the longer they take, the more likely we are going to receive something worthy for Forgotten Lands groundwork. But what are your predictions? Are you Team 2025 or Team 2026, and what do you think is the best idea how to release the next mainline game? I mean, there's also the possibility of a 2027 timeframe, but we are Kirby fans, so 1 year without at least 5 new games is suffering enough.